All right, well, welcome to our podcast. I'm Brian Morell,
And I'm your co-host, Jake Morell.
and we have our special guest, Tom Morell. He's our dad.
Hi, guys.
So our podcast is called Grit Factor, and we're just going to be talking about different gritty things and, like, the level of grit of different things. This term grit, it's kind of hard to define. Like, everyone has their own definition of it. I feel like we're just kind of giving our opinions. You could have a completely different definition of grit, right?
Yeah, I think this podcast will help with that because I think a lot of people may not know exactly what grit is, but that's kind of what we're trying to help with. I mean, grit is your own definition, but, going over these subjects and talking about them and just the grit factor of them, that'll kind of help you out to form your own definition of grit.
Yeah, I think there's probably some general underpinnings of what grit is, though.
Definitely.
We'll see.
We'll see. We just have a long list here of stuff. We're just going to talk about it. And the first thing on our list is Adidas track jackets, which I was thinking of these when, what was the name of that movie?
Gone, Baby, Gone.
Yeah, watching the movie Gone, Baby,
that's
Gone.
That's a gritty movie.
The main detective is wearing a Adidas track jacket.
He's
My older
gritty.
brother was commenting on that. Jake, what do you think about the grit of Adidas track jackets?
I think it depends. Because you'll see Adidas track jackets in a lot of different places, but I think for it to be gritty, you'll see a Slav squatting on a park bench.
Slav culture.
Actually, no park benches. That's why they squat. You'll just see a Slav squatting in the streets, and that's very gritty. That's gritty Adidas track jacket right there. Also, my dad's sitting right here. He wears one, and he makes it look gritty. I can't lie. It's pretty solid. But those Adidas track jackets when you're a little undersized kid playing soccer, walking around wearing your special
FCX
Adidas track jacket. That's not gritty. Come on.
Also, if you're like a 70s music producer and you're wearing like an Adidas tracksuit with like the gold chain and like your hairy chest, like the hair is like sprouting out of it, like
with the
then you're not gritty. I'm gonna be honest. You're just kind of weird.
Yeah, I think the grit factor comes from, how authentic it is to you, right? Slavs who are Slav squatting, right? And usually it's off-brand, right? It's like, like two-stripe Adidas or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's classic Slav.
But that's authentic. And the reason I think that I can continue to rock the Adidas track jacket and be humorous but somewhat gritty is because I've been wearing them since 1982.
You have the clout behind it.
I have the clout behind it. It's an authentic, thing for me. It's when people are posers wearing them that it doesn't fit. But for the most part, I think it's a good classic old school look.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and soccer players, I guess they just don't look gritty wearing it. I feel like they just don't wear it in a gritty way, which I don't blame them, but that's just my opinion.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
So next we have Coast Guard stations in 1891, and this sprouted from seeing a couple pictures on the Coast Guard's Instagram page. Proud member of the Coast Guard here, and it was just like a picture of Coast Guard Station Marquette, Michigan in like 1891, and they all had like full beards, like salty, like they just looked so salty. And so I mean, my grit factor on this is just like they're just ultra gritty. Like I feel like these are the type of guys that like they're going out on the ice to like help you out. They fall in themselves. They don't care. They just pull themselves out. They don't even dry themselves off. They like walk right into the bar and just like slam a few beers. I just feel like that's what those guys were doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it, but it's definitely gritty. I mean, just seeing those pictures, it's definitely gritty. There's no question about it. Very salty, very gritty.
Yeah, all-time grit factor. And I think they're probably drinking whiskey, not beer.
Yeah, probably.
Drinking whiskey. And remember, they're like going out in like 20-foot surf in a rowboat. Right?
Yeah.
It's like 1891.
Yeah.
It's not like they had some outboard motor that was going to power them through. They're putting on their slickers and they're rowing through the ice and stuff to go haul someone off a ship. Yeah, those were hard men for sure.
Yeah, no question. Grit all around. Oh, okay. Next on the list, hoarding toilet paper.
Oh
so
my
just
God.
kind of in light
Oh
of
my
this
God.
this current pandemic we're experiencing, and all these like going to Jewel, Osco, and seeing the toilet paper shelves completely empty. Like there's nothing there. Jake, what do you think?
I mean, like, this whole global pandemic starts and it reaches the United States, and obviously with something like this, you're going to have panic, right? Like, people are going to panic no matter what. But the first thing that they think is, gosh, like, I'm not going to be able to wipe my ass? Like, really? That's what you're thinking? Like, I went to Jewel, and there was still bread and soup cans on the shelf, and there was no toilet paper. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know where that
I just don't get
fixation
it. That is
came
so
from.
not gritty. Hoarding toilet paper is so not gritty. I just don't get it. I just don't get the thought that this infectious disease reaches the United States and people are thinking of being quarantined and they're just like, toilet paper. Like, I need it. I need to stock up on. Like, really? That's the first thing you think of? I don't get it. Not gritty.
Yeah, totally not gritty. So such a loser behavior. Yeah, I think one of the things that when I look at grit, it's the difference between being prepared and self-reliant and selfish. And hoarding of anything is selfish, not gritty. Being self-reliant and being prepared so that you can take care of yourself and your family and maybe other people in the community and stuff like that, that's gritty. But hoarding toilet paper, come on.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
I agree. I mean, really,
Yeah,
if you're really, if it becomes that desperate, I mean, there's other things you can use too. I mean, you could even go outside and take a dump in your backyard if you wanted to. I mean, if you were really gritty, that's what you would do.
I mean, if there's some leaves, yeah.
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 And you always look up for your toilet paper when you're pooping in the woods, but I mean, that's just common knowledge, I feel like.
Garden hose with jet nozzle,
Ooh.
right?
Nice.
Or you could
Come
just
on.
be, or you could
everyone has an outdoor bidet.
That's
they just,
true.
Right? I mean,
They just
they're
don't use it.
They just don't use it. But if you had to, if it was the poopocalypse of COVID-19 and we're all out of toilet paper, there are options, folks, instead of stealing toilet paper from old folks.
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed. Not gritty. Not gritty at all. Next on our list, snowblowers. Now this is interesting. Go ahead, Jake.
I need to voice my opinion on this one. Now this one's interesting because snowblowers, when you think about it, are a very smart invention, right?
No doubt.
It's sold a ton. It's like so many people have them. It's way easier than shoveling.
Yes.
But it's a lot more expensive and it's way less gritty. And let me tell you, like, growing up in the Chicago area, like some of the most inconsistent weather in the United States, like when you're out there shoveling, you know, in the morning and, you know, you get called out to shovel and you're out there shoveling and you're pushing it away and trying to hack the ice off of the driveway and all this stuff. And it sucks because it's freezing cold, but it's also still snowing as you're shoveling. And you just look over and see your neighbor pushing along the little snowblower. That just makes you mad. That's not gritty. Snowblowers are not gritty. Intelligent? Yes. But a lot more expensive than just buying a shovel. And less gritty. Snowblowers, not gritty. Not gritty at all.
And not to be like, oh, I'm so gritty. Like, I definitely had to be convinced by my parents to go out and shovel snow. Like, I wasn't like, oh,
I
yeah,
mean, no
I'm
one
so
wanted
gritty.
to.
I'm gonna go outside
It's
and
not
shovel the
something you
snow.
like
I'm a
doing.
beast. But still, I mean, like, just like, unless, I mean, if you're over 60, I feel like then you graduate to the snowblower.
Sure.
Or if someone's over 60, the kids in their neighborhood should be coming over to shovel their driveway.
That's right. Well, someone over 60, if they're still doing their own driveway by snowblower or shovel, they're gritty by definition.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
I have 3 boys and, you know, a wife who kicks butt. My thing was like, everyone say, why didn't you get a snowblower? I'm like, because I've got 3 sons and they can shovel the friggin' driveway, right? And so sometimes you might not want to be gritty, but sometimes, you kind of teach someone to be gritty by making them do things
Yes.
that they otherwise wouldn't. So
Yes.
snowblowers, great thing. Have wanted one, but at the end of the day, not gritty. I think that the bare minimum to get yourself to like even keel on the grit factor, if you have a snowblower, you at least have to do sidewalks like to the street or something.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
what
do
I was
all the
going to say.
sidewalks.
I was
Right.
going to say that because I've never seen, like, in my neighborhood, growing up with Chicago winters, I've never seen someone with a snowblower walk over to someone else's driveway and snowblow it for them.
Right.
I have seen, and I've done it myself. My brothers and I have finished shoveling our driveway and then, gone across the street to neighbors' houses and shoveled it for them and, shoveled the sidewalks around and stuff like that. But I have never seen somebody take a snowblower and go to someone else's house and snowblow their driveway for them. And I think that might be part of the grit. I feel like with your snowblower, it's just like you walk out there, you push your little snowblower, and then you're done in like 5 minutes. But I feel like with shoveling, it's just like a duty to your neighborhood,
Right.
Agreed. Next we have TikTok. Jake, I know you wanted to weigh in on this one.
Oh my god. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's like Vine, but dumbed down.
All right, but first of all,
So
what's the grit factor of it, Jake?
Okay, the grit factor.
It's not gritty.
I think the grit factor is absolutely zero, and here's why. I mean, first of all, it's stupid, and I think things are hard to be gritty when they're absolutely as stupid as TikTok is. Like, we used to have Vine, right? I know I got the old guy sitting here who doesn't know what Vine is, but Vine
Like
was
short videos.
Yeah,
right?
it was 2013 to 2016. It was super popular. It was 7-second long videos.
Got it.
But they were actually funny. Like, people took them to make like jokes out of them. And some TikToks are really funny and like they're pretty good. But the majority of what TikTok is just videos of people dancing to songs. It's literally a dumber version of Vine. And the people who've gotten famous off of TikTok it's so like, if you think the Kardashians being famous is stupid,
I do think that's stupid.
it is stupid. I agree. But like, at least that was from, like the whole OJ thing and like all that. That's kind of how that happened. Something actually happened in the world for them to be famous. TikTok famous people literally just dance and like, dress, I guess, accordingly, all these like e-boys or whatever. I think that the TikTok boys, like Lil Huddy, I think that is the least gritty human being on earth. It's definitely up there. I mean, like, these TikTok guys like are somehow famous for doing absolutely nothing but like dancing and wearing earrings and painting their nails. Like, I think it's the least gritty thing ever, and it just makes me so mad. And like, they take off their shirts like and dance. I'm like, bro, like, hit the gym, like. Seriously,
that's coming
like,
through. I want to hear the old guy.
Like, you are the skinniest person I've ever seen.
Have you even
like,
seen a TikTok?
Oh my god!
I've yeah, I don't know that I really have. It's not like I have the app.
But you saw the
like that.
Fallon.
I don't have that.
I saw
either.
the Fallon
TikTok
thing
queen.
with the TikTok dancing queen. I guess my default. I have of two minds here. First of all, if it's like just harmless videos of dancing, like, that's fine. I mean, that could be a positive, good spirited thing. I think basically people waste too much time on apps and stuff like that anyways, and like watching random people dance for like hours a day would seem to be a waste of time. So there's, it's fine, but just in terms of grit factor, usually like gritty people aren't real look at me type people.
Agreed.
My opinion.
Agreed.
My opinion. So like the whole TikTok look at me culture, it's by its definition almost not gritty. Not that it's negative necessarily. In moderation, people dancing, that's fine. I like to watch musicals and stuff with people dancing. That's okay. But grit factor, no.
Agreed.
And no one's on TikTok trying to be gritty either.
No, yeah, it's not like you're on there.
No TikTok stars are going to be offended by this take.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
All right, next we're going to go to ice surfing. I saw, it was just I think it was a Vice documentary on it, on just these guys that ice surf Lake Michigan on like the UP, and they just like, their beards just like, they just like become ice, like they're just like icemen. And I mean, I don't think there's really much debate about this. Like, if you're surfing in ice, then you are gritty. You don't care.
Right. Yeah. That's probably pretty high grit factor.
That's pretty cut and dry one.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. That's pretty. I mean, it's kind of like the Coast Guard stations. It's like, I mean, can you get more gritty than that? Like surfing in the ice. Like that's awesome. Like come up with frozen beards. Like that's so gritty.
That's pretty cut and dry right there.
I think it is.
Next, I think this next one's a pretty cut and dry one. We're gonna go off the script a little bit here, but Matt Stoney.
Oh my! Please
explain
gosh.
Matt Stoney.
Please let me. Okay, so Matt Stoney, if you don't know already, is a world famous eating champion, right? He's amazingly skilled at eating. He's this like little Asian guy. It doesn't make any sense how good he is, but he is. And he uploads these videos to YouTube. I think he just recently passed 10 million subscribers. And like he uploads these videos of him eating. He's been doing it since like 2010. He's like, it's awesome, but I think it's pretty gritty. Not only because am I watching those videos and just seeing the visible pain on his face as he's trying to stuff, 7 pounds of food into his mouth in like 10 minutes or something ridiculous like that. But, a lot of these people on YouTube that are famous, like, just like are famous for telling fake stories and like people think they're real. So like, I really appreciate the grit of Matt Stoney because he actually has a skill. And I think it's actually pretty impressive, some of the stuff he does. I mean, like, the grittiest video I've ever seen him done was one he recently uploaded one where it was like the 3 pound of Sour Patch challenge. So he eats 3 pounds of Sour Patch in one sitting. And at the end of it, he just like finishes eating and he just opens his mouth and his tongue is just bleeding. Like it's just dripping blood. Like this dude eats through the pain. And I think that's so gritty. And he's actually like won a bunch of competitions and stuff, which are also fun to watch. But I think it's pretty gritty because you can see the pain on his face as he's trying to eat these huge amounts of food.
I mean, and now I'm thinking about it, like, yeah, sure, he's gritty, but like he portrays that gritty value, but what he does, I feel like, has no real value to society.
I mean, yeah, you need zero skill or, not skill. I mean, you need zero schooling or education to sit in front of a camera and eat things. But I think compared to some of the other things that I see on YouTube that are just people being famous for the least gritty things ever, I think it's impressive because he actually has a skill. And I think that fame, through the platform that he's doing it through, like YouTube, like if you catch a following, you can get pretty famous on YouTube. But I think through that platform, that's pretty gritty. That's a pretty gritty way to get famous on YouTube is to eat insane amounts of food in low amounts of time.
What do you think, Dad?
I'm gonna say no on grit. I just don't know that you equate anything famous with gritty. Or it's just not what I think of grit. This is like
take.
In time wasting. This is probably Jake's biggest time waster.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
I watched these videos and they are entertaining and impressive. I mean the way the guy attacks it and stuff. No doubt, it's not an easy thing that he's doing, and it's certainly a challenge. And I've seen him eat ridiculous and impressive amounts of food, but I don't like grit factor. Again, if I'm going back to our 1891 Coast Guard guys in Marquette,
true.
They're punching through the ice and they're grabbing a fish and they're eating it raw as they're like floating on some ice floe or something, before they can make a sail out of their rain slicker and stuff like that.
Okay, but
that's gritty. I don't
brings,
know that Matt Stoney is really gritty.
But that brings up
he's
an
good
interesting...
at what he does, and he's harmlessly famous. But I don't know, it's gritty. But
interesting. We're gonna jump ahead here to little Chicago. So first we're gonna talk Sox versus Cubs.
Oh, this is easy. Dude.
I mean, this one's easy if
one.
if you're from
this
Chicago
is the easiest one on
or
here.
the area,
Right.
I mean, we're all Sox fans here. Admittedly, we're all Sox fans
I'm
here.
a Sox fan.
But, our neighbor that we've grown up with next to for our entire lives is a huge Cubs fan. And we were talking about it the other day when we were lifting. And we were talking about the subjects for this podcast. And Brian said Sox versus Cubs, who's grittier. This dude is like a huge Cubs fan. And he's like,
loyal, very loyal.
Oh, Sox, easy. Like, you just know. Like, if you're from Chicago, you just know. And I'm pretty sure if you're a baseball fan in general, you understand. Because you know that the Sox are South Side, and you know that it's much grittier there, and you know that it's less... I don't know. I feel like it's less, like flaunted. I don't know.
I feel like I am a Sox fan Like, I feel like I had the choice, but now I feel like I'm just a Sox fan because the fact that they were just more grittier. They're just South Side. Like, the Cubs are like Wrigleyville, like...
And like, Chris Bryant and
the
Javi Baez.
Cubbies.
I love my
They're
Cubbies.
so hot. Like, the Sox just lace up and let it rip, you know? And
Exactly.
and I think they've done a lot of good things. I think they're going to be good again. I think people are going to start to recognize that Southside grit. Like a guy like Paul Konerko, like, he's so gritty. Like, there is no, like, showboaty factors to that dude at all. He just, you just bomb it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Sox clearly grittier.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Especially when you're riding the red line
Oh, my God.
to the cell. What is it even called now?
Oh, it's called Guaranteed Rate Field.
Yep.
Which is not a great name.
No, not a great name.
Know, the Cell was a good nickname. Comiskey was probably the best name for it. But yeah, the Red Line. The Red Line's definitely the grittiest of the L in Chicago, because it runs, all the way from the Dan Ryan to past Wrigleyville. So it runs like, the reason why it's so like dirty and gritty is like it runs throughout the entire city, which I think people don't always understand. They're just like, the red line's gross. Like, yeah, I mean, it runs north-south through the entire city of Chicago, which is a huge city. But yeah, the red line is always renowned as the dirtiest and grossest, but I think it's pretty gritty. I saw a funny post one time, and it was like, the coronavirus can't affect Chicagoans because we're all immune because we've ridden the red line. But I think it is pretty gritty. It's not, it's just an elevated train. It's pretty dirty. It's kind of gross.
I think subways in general are pretty gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the Metro in DC.
Oh, no. The Metro in DC.
So I consider myself a public train transportation fan, like a connoisseur. I always like to ride it. Like,
right.
When I went to Boston, I made it a point to my friend who was hosting me. I said, "Can we please ride the T?" Because I want to see what the T was like. I've ridden the Metro in DC, the subway in New York, the L in Chicago, even the Tube in London. So I feel like I've been kind of around some of the major
trolleys in San Fran.
Trolleys in San Fran, but that's kind of different. I feel like, I feel like I've been kind of around these trains, and they're gritty, but like there's different levels of gritty. Like, I've ridden the subway. The subway was disgusting.
Yeah,
it was pretty nasty. Not as gross in the winter though. More gross in the summer when it's like I read it this past summer and this past winter, so it was definitely better in the winter. But yeah, I agree. Subways in general, because they're pretty cheap and anyone can really ride them. So
yeah, I think there's a difference between. I think just kind of a rule of thumb: subways gritty, commuter trains not gritty.
Yeah, like the Metro here.
Yeah, like the Metro here, not
right. And that's why the DC Metro is kind of. It's like, well, what is it, right?
True.
Is it a subway or is it a commuter train? And it's kind of one and the same.
Yeah.
In Chicago, you have Metra,
you have a clear definition,
and then you have the L, gritty.
In New York, like we
subway
ride like
gritty.
The Metro North going down into the city. It's nice. It's clean.
Yeah.
Then you get on the subway and you're like, oh, this is gross.
Connecticut, not gritty.
Yeah.
New York City,
not gritty.
You know what's gritty about the L too, compared to an actual subway, is it's the L because it's elevated.
Yeah.
And subways are underground. Although it goes underground at a lot of points, but like you'll just be walking, through the city, and you just like, you're walking on Monroe Street, and you're just crossing the street, and it's just like suddenly there's the ground is shaking, and there's this whole rattling. It's just extremely loud, and then there's just a like huge screeching sound, and you look up, you're like, oh, yep, there's the L, because it just runs above everything, which I think kind of adds to Chicago's grit a little bit, is that you'll just be walking down the street having a conversation with someone, and then you just won't be able to hear them at all. Yeah. And that's just because there's a train coming.
Like, it gives an image of there's always sparks flying when it passes over you, which is not true.
No, yeah, but
mentally you're like, oh, there's gonna be sparks flying.
I mean, you feel like it's gonna tumble down on you.
Yeah.
Like you feel like the train is like the whole thing is gonna crash down on top of you.
Definitely gritty.
So definitely gritty.
Well, and it's also something that, like, you're someone who wants to be a man or woman of the people, right? The story is always how they took the subway in New York, right?
True.
From their
True.
Park Avenue apartment. But instead of taking their limo, they used to take the subway down to Wall Street all the time. So you know, when people are aspiring to something like that, it probably is but then they'd be posers, and they also wouldn't look good in an Adidas track jacket.
True.
Agreed. Bringing it full circle. All right, well, that's about all we have time for today. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys.